Hi, everyone. Welcome to our 13th episode of Lemonology, the knowledge sharing platform. My name's Grant Pringle. I'm a senior account manager at Pill Lemon Agency. And today I've got a special guest, Joshua, who's our head of Pill Lemon Legal. So, just so for all of you, all our listeners out there, so just to give you an overview, Pill Lemon Legal is a very much of a new entity and startup, which is under the Pill Lemon Group umbrella. And yeah, we'll be just delving into more aspects around the company, how we started, and where we are till date. So I know there's been a lot of movement, hey Joshua, since we officially launched in April this year. But it would be great just to get some sort of an idea of where the company's at, where we're going, what's the plan going forward. But first and foremost, it would be great just if you can share a bit of insight or just a bit of background about yourself, just to give our viewers an overview of who you are. You know, what is the day in the life of Joshua at Pill Lemon Legal. So, yeah, over to you, Josh.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, thanks for having me, Grant.
Awesome.
I mean, just I'll try keep the bit about me as short as possible. But yes, I mean, I actually had a background in the financial services. I've studied a degree in law and commerce in South Africa, actually,
Okay.
which has helped just knowing sort of the right questions to ask in the UK. Because I think one of the things Deepak came across, having some challenges with clients in a legal sense in the on the Pearl Lemon side of things was, look, a lot of the lawyers, they don't actually know the answers anyways. They're also just looking,
Exactly.
and if we can be really good at finding those answers and knowing the answer to those questions, and we can help people to help themselves um,
Okay.
quicker and more efficiently than a lot of solicitors do, and that's kind of what we've been doing since March. I actually joined sort of full time in April, more on the legal side, and things, as you've said, they're really snowballed. I think we started with 3 clients in the
It's
first month, and then
it's
since then we've
it's
had like
incredible to
15 a month.
comprehend
Yeah,
how fast we've grown. I mean, we registered the company in March. The group Deepak registered the company in March, and since then, I think we've got over 200 leads. That's just flying through, which is incredible.
more more than
More,
that. I
wow,
mean,
okay.
yeah,
Well,
I
that's a
mean
good sign. It just shows there's a need for legal, at the end of the day, and that's
yeah.
awesome stuff, Josh. And what are
Look, I
the
mean,
current plans at the moment for Pill Lemon Legal? Are we looking to grow the team further, scale it? I mean, where do you think we'll be in 6 months' time? What is the plan there?
yeah. So, I mean, good question. I mean, what we've done to date is, as I mentioned, sort of the self-help service, which is maybe on the lower end of the scale. I
Okay,
mean, we've provided a lot of value, I think, to individuals. But what
it's
we'd
really cool.
like to do is maybe just grow the team a bit. We've brought a researcher on board, I think, 2 months ago, which has helped us to level up the kind
Mm.
of service that we actually deliver. What we're in the process of doing right now is partnering with a qualified solicitor that's just going to allow us to advise on some of the restricted legal activities, take part in maybe some more commercial disputes, contractual disputes, employment settlements.
Yeah,
So maybe just basically the things we've actually been getting inquiries for, where we've been forced to refer them out, we'd now like to bring them in house.
in house,
And
yeah,
we've actually got a
makes
few
sense.
candidates that we could bring on board, and it's just a question of who makes the most sense at this stage. So, I mean, by the new month, we'll probably have a solicitor in the team.
That's awesome. And I think research is an important component of this business. One's got to get their facts straight. This is the UK that we're dealing with mostly from a demographic or geographic perspective. So it's just important. There's it's quite a high component, or a high notable industry. To be accompanied by. So I think in order for us to understand, all of the components, we need to be on par, on form, and know what we're talking about. So, provided that you've got a degree in law, it obviously makes sense. You obviously understand the limits, the limitations thereof. But I think, yeah, by having researchers on board, it's definitely because law is constantly changing, right? You got to keep up to date through all the legal aspects. There's the political aspects. There's commercial law. There's just various types of components of law. So there's a lot to kind of keep up to date on. So I'm sure that's something you and the team are working on by keeping up to date through all the
Yeah.
acts, they call it.
Well, I mean, probably a good example of that is the second case we ever dealt with was a guy he had a tenant who he wanted to move on. His
Okay.
tenant also wanted to move on because she couldn't afford the rent, and she was on
Oh,
universal credit, which is, so basically they were both stuck because she needed a court order so that the court would help her to find housing. And so they needed to go through the process. And what the client had done is served what is known as a Section 21 notice. It's a no fault notice. I think he also served a Section 8 notice, which he
yeah.
served both, which he was fully entitled to do. Once we took him on as a client, we saw the property was based in Wales, and so
Okay.
he'd served a notice that was only relevant in England, and so the whole 6-month and 2-month notice period that he'd been waiting for the court to now take action was pretty much irrelevant.
Okay.
And so by partnering with us, we were able to take it on and go, look, you're in Wales. What you need to serve is actually an RHW 17, and something as silly as that has saved our client a lot of time.
So it's all
And
these
I
small
mean, that's
nuances, all these tiny things and these cracks, that you
sometimes,
guys that you got
yes,
to dig deep into and really get an understanding of what's going wrong.
yeah,
So yeah,
absolutely.
that's very interesting. So sure, and I'm sure there's a lot of interesting cases you've dealt with, post that.
Yeah,
So just different interesting types of people. So
for
it's
sure. Yeah.
yeah, the list must go on. So but yeah. And Josh, I just think from that angle, it's just yourself at the moment. We've obviously appointed a research person who's assisting with everything on that note. But I think where do you see it going about in 6 months to a year from now? Because I think things are rapidly growing at the moment, and I think we've already got our website. So for all of you who don't know, check out our website. Our link is below. So for everyone that's battling with any sort of cases, you know who to call on, not Ghostbusters, but Paul Lemon Legal. So sorry,
Yeah.
that's just being cheesy. Anyway, but
We are, yeah.
yeah,
Classic dad joke, eh?
there we go.
Um, yeah. So I mean, I think we would like to continue helping individuals, but what we will also probably be doing is maybe looking at scaling back the volume we do and
Okay.
doing more higher ticket items, and that's part of bringing the solicitor on board.
Okay.
I mean, in terms of revenue, we're in a good space at the moment. What we
And we're
expect
very
is that within
affordable
six
compared
months,
to other legal, consultants out
yes,
there. I
of
think we
course,
really will price
yeah.
within the market.
I mean, the reason for that is obviously if you go to a law firm, they've got overheads that we just don't have, being fully remote, and
Yeah.
yeah, working more in customer service, I suppose, gives us an advantage there as well.
Mm.
But yes, I mean, in terms of revenue, it's fine right now, but we'd like to grow it probably to 5 figures and then 6 figures, which within the next 6 months is very realistic. And as you
Awesome.
say, we're leveling up our team a bit in terms of our expertise, which is great as well, because
Mm. And
fundamentally
we've
we
also got
want
a
to
really
be
good outreach
improving.
team. So everyone knows, besides under the Pill Lemon group, it obviously makes life a lot more easier to back Pill Lemon Legal by Pill Lemon leads, Pill Lemon sales. So we've got an incredible sales team. We've got lead generation and our SEO department. So being a performance marketing agency, that's on obviously my end. So obviously, we've definitely tried our best to optimize Pill Lemon Legal's website to get it where it wants to be, to obviously stay ahead, to be upline with the main competitors. But I think, like you said, we are completely in a different niche. We basically aimed at providing self-service for individuals, for the average Joe or person who's really struggling or with a certain case that needs a bit of help. So I think it's really going after that market to because there's obviously a gap and potential for that specific market to grow. And yeah, so I think with the Pearl Lemon Group, it's definitely helped transition to fast track Pearl Lemon Legal. But at the same time, we've got really good people who offer great, efficient service, such as yourself. So that obviously adds a lot of value.
Yeah, and I think what's nice for people as well is when you're in these situations as just as an individual, is it can be quite overwhelming, and you start to you get into this a bit of a panicked state, and just having someone else on board a lot of the time is enough for our clients to just sort of relax a bit, have that peace
Exactly.
of mind. And then
Yeah.
also that paired with the fact that we really do help them build a case when that's what's required, and just sort of structure what it is that's actually happened. Because a lot of the time, our client is either not in the wrong, or if they are in the wrong,
Yeah.
it's not willful negligence. It's really just a case of they didn't know any better, and we're able to help them frame that in a way that just gets them a result. It's a lot kinder than the other party is trying to do,
Yeah.
which is shocking actually. But the UK, there are a lot of people trying to take advantage of other people, it seems. So yeah,
Yeah.
nice to stand in the gap there.
Definitely. And I think by identifying someone's, situation analysis of where they are at the moment, I'm sure by being open and transparent about it, how does it work if a lead comes through and a prospect has a certain inquiry, but let's say they might be actually in the wrong? So what happens from there? How does it proceed further to the next level? Or I'm sure nothing can proceed further, because if they're in the wrong, then what? I mean, is
Yeah,
there going
so I
to be
mean,
option B, option C to refer to?
perfect question. I mean, it hasn't happened yet, but it might be that we say to them, look,
Yeah.
just take your medicine. But what's actually happened in the past? I mean, we had a client with a credit default on his name, and he
Okay.
was contractually in the wrong. In
Okay.
his defense, there was a 21-page document, and clause 19.1 said that if he didn't perform, he bought an electric vehicle, and
Okay.
a battery, and those two purchases were connected but separate, and he had a hire purchase agreement for each, and he had to complete a special kind of battery transfer form when selling the vehicle, and he needed to send that copy back to the financial lender, and because of him not being a solicitor and missing clause 19.1, he wasn't aware of that. He did what he thought he had to, sold the vehicle according to all the other laws that the UK has. I mean, you've got
Okay.
to keep your V5C and send back a yellow slip, and there's a couple other things. He did in fact complete the battery transfer form, but he didn't get the new owner to send their copy back to the lender. Once
Okay.
they told him, she needs to send us her version of the battery transfer form. He asked her to, and she just refused, which ended up in him owing the lender £6,000, for which they served a credit default on his name. He couldn't get a loan. He couldn't get a business loan or a mortgage, so he was a bit stuck. Couldn't get new credit cards.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
what we were able to do
That's a bummer.
after a
Yeah.
lot of yeah yeah
Wow.
no, he was not a happy man, but
Hmm.
what we were actually able to do after quite a bit of mediation and communication with the lender was to say, like, look, contractually he was very much in the wrong, but in reality he was no longer in possession of the battery. He had sold the battery.
Yeah, it sold it. Yeah.
This is the transfer that had taken place, and they initially said to us, look, the ombudsman's given his decision on the case. um, this is how it is. We can't go against what the ombudsman said. And so we challenged it again, actually in a very amicable way. We didn't go too strong on this one. Um, and lo and behold, they came back and said, look, we actually agree with what you're saying. We're going to remove the default. There
Brilliant.
wasn't actually a debt to us,
Okay.
and happy customers. So
Happy
he
customer,
was
man.
wrong
Yeah.
contractually,
Get those
but he was
testimonials
right
going, Josh,
in
and those
reality.
reviews. I'm sure a
Yeah,
lot's
me
a
and my
lot's coming
admin.
our way.
There
Yeah.
you go. Yeah,
Yeah, and
so
I
I mean,
think
that was a fun
we
one to
are
get
on
through.
Google My Business, we are on Trustpilot, so at the end of the day, we have to maintain a credible aspect when it comes to service, and it's about transparency, openness, and thorough communication, and I think that's what we're all about at the end of the day as a company. So and but Josh, I think that's definitely a great open mind. I'm sure a lot of our listeners and viewers out there have learnt a lot about who we at Pill Lemon Legal are about, and especially that we take this serious. We obviously there to back. I'm not going to use the word middle class or any certain type of class. It's any individual that is battling a legal case, and we're there to obviously assist in any way or form to provide factual advice and to guide them, to help them, and it's all about guiding them at the end of the day through this process. So yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. You couldn't have said it better myself.
awesome. But with let's keep an eye out for 6 months. Let's do a review podcast.
Good idea. Yeah.
We're gonna see six figures and thousands of awesome testimonials down the line. So looking forward to that one. And to all our viewers and listeners, hit the link below. Check out Pearl Lemon Legal.